We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Swiss president says a New Year's Eve fire at ski resort among country's worst tragedies. At least 40 people killed, over 100 injured. Flags to fly at half-mast for 5 days. Clashes between protesters and security forces in Iran leave 6 dead amid cost of living protest. Russia hands over evidence to US claiming Ukrainian drone targeted Putin's residence, escalating tensions in peace talks. Financial Stability Report of India's Central Bank RBI predicts Indian economy to likely maintain strong growth. Health of commercial banks remains sound. And on to the details now. Around 40 people were killed and over 100 injured when a fire ripped through a crowded bar during a New Year's Eve party in the upscale Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana. Swiss President Guy Parmelin described the deadly fire as one of the worst tragedies the country has known. Speaking after the incident, the Swiss president said authorities are investigating the exact circumstances of what happened. He added that flags will be flown at half-mast for 5 days, stressing that a tragedy of such a scale must not happen again.
The fire that occurred last night in a bar in Crans, Montana, is one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known. Many lives, mostly young people, have been lost. Around 100 people were injured, many seriously. And behind these numbers are faces, names, families, destinies brutally cut short or forever shattered.
Well, the fire broke out at around 1:30 local time during New Year's celebrations. Authorities said they launched an investigation into the fire incident. The authorities said they were racing to identify the victims, but warned the process could take several days, even weeks. Meanwhile, local people gathered to pay tribute to the victims at a vigil at Montana Station Church on Thursday evening, and floral tributes were laid near the scene of the fire. Crans, Montana is a luxury ski resort famous in the 1980s for hosting the World Cup skiing. Well, the world leader has also reacted to the fatal fire that tore through a crowded bar during the New Year's Eve party in the upscale Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana. The European Union said it has been in contact with Swiss authorities about providing medical assistance, while French President Emmanuel Macron said some of the injured were already being cared for in French hospitals. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani told Italian broadcaster that around 15 Italians had been injured in the fire and a similar number remained missing. Also, the French Foreign Ministry said 9 French citizens figured among the injured and 8 others remained unaccounted for. Swiss President Parmelin thanked countries that offered support in the aftermath of the fire, pointing specifically to neighboring France, Germany and Italy. He said communications are being established through foreign ministries with the families of the foreign victims. Also, a massive fire engulfed a historic church in Amsterdam in the early hours of New Year's Day on Thursday. The blaze tore through the 19th century Wandel Kirk, destroying large sections of the new Gothic building and causing its iconic spire to collapse. The fire broke out shortly after midnight near the city's central Vande Park, reducing much of the landmark built in 1872 to ruins. Authorities said the cause of the fire remains under investigation. And in Iran, clashes between protesters and security forces across several cities left 6 people dead as protests over worsening economic conditions spread nationwide. Now, Iran's Fars news agency reported that some protesters in Doordarshan threw stones at government buildings, a mosque and banks, prompting police to respond with tear gas. It added buildings suffered serious damage and that police detained several individuals. In Asna, the agency reported that rioters exploited a demonstration to assault a police station. Separately, news agency Tasnim said authorities in Tehran arrested 30 people accused of public order offences. The deputy governor of Lorestan province said Porali stated that 13 police officers and Basij members were injured by stone pelting during demonstrations in Kaldats. The protest began in Tehran on Sunday, where shopkeepers went on strike over high prices and economic stagnation, and have since spread to other parts of the country also. Well, EU member Bulgaria marked its entry into the Eurozone on Thursday with a celebratory display of euro coins on the facade of a central bank in Sofia. Fireworks lit up the capital as the country celebrated the long-awaited milestone. As of midnight, the euro became the country's currency and the lev was banished into history. Bulgaria's entry into the Eurozone will take the number of Europeans using the currency to more than 350 million. Bulgarians have mixed feelings about the historic currency change. Some see it as a positive step away from the country's socialist past, while others criticize the decision for lacking public consultation and are worried over high prices and political instability. The last country to join the single currency group was Croatia in January 2023. And former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro was discharged from the hospital on Thursday after undergoing medical procedures to treat a hernia and hiccups. The former president has been sent back to the Federal Police Superintendency in Brasilia, where he is serving a 27-year sentence for plotting a coup after losing the 2022 presidential election. Bolsonaro was admitted to the hospital last week for surgical procedures following a request from his lawyers. Earlier, Brazil Supreme Court Justice rejected a request from his lawyers seeking permission for the former president to serve a sentence under what they called humanitarian house arrest. And at least 3 people were killed and 7 others missing after a New Year's Eve attack on informal miners in northern Peru on Thursday. The assault is the latest in a string of violent incidents targeting small-scale gold miners in the Andean nation. Authorities noted that in May last year, 13 miners were killed in the same district as criminal gangs intensified efforts to expand their control over the lucrative mining region. And updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. A senior Russian military official on Thursday presented a U.S. military attache with what he said was a component of a Ukrainian drone, claiming the data proved Kyiv had targeted a Russian presidential residence. Moscow has alleged that Ukraine attempted to strike President Vladimir Putin's residence in the Novgorod region using dozens of long-range drones and warned it could reconsider its position in talks with the United States on ending the conflict. Ukraine and several Western countries have rejected the claim, while U.S. President Donald Trump initially appeared sympathetic to Russia's allegation. He later expressed doubts. Ukraine dismissed the accusation as disinformation aimed at straining ties with the U.S.
I've invited you here for an important matter. We'd like to inform you that we found the wreckage of the drones that carried out this attack. The navigation systems of some of these drones are well preserved and technically functional. A decryption of the memory contents of the navigation controllers of these drones, performed by specialists from Russian intelligence agencies, has irrefutably confirmed that the target of the attack was the complex of buildings housing the Russian president's residence in the Novgorod region.
Well, Israel's military chief says the country's determination to disarm Hamas is absolute, calling 2026 a decisive year for Israel's security. Now, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir made the remarks during a visit to Israeli troops in Gaza. His comments follow talks between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump on the next phase of the fragile Gaza truce. U.S. President Donald Trump warned Hamas of severe consequences if it does not disarm, while the group has repeatedly refused to surrender its weapons. Although the ceasefire is largely held since October, both sides accuse each other of violations. Meanwhile, Israeli military have begun demolishing 25 buildings in the Nur Shams refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military says the demolitions are part of operations targeting armed groups in the area. And Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro on Thursday said he was open to cooperation with Washington after weeks of American military pressure. Also, in an interview on state TV, Maduro said he's open for dialogues wherever and whenever U.S. wants. Till date, Maduro has not confirmed a U.S. land attack on a docking facility in his country that allegedly targeted drug boats, according to U.S. President Donald Trump's comments on Monday. Now, the attack would amount to the first known land strike of the U.S. military campaign against drug trafficking from Latin America. Trump on Monday said the United States hit and destroyed a docking area for alleged Venezuela drug boats. Trump would not say if it was a military or CIA operation or where the strike occurred, noting only that it was along the shore. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan government has released 88 more detainees who were held after protest following the July 2024 Venezuelan election. This comes after the release of 99 individuals on December 26th, bringing the total number of freed prisoners to 187, marking the second mass release in 2 weeks. The government described these actions as part of a comprehensive review process of cases ordered by President Nicolas Maduro. The Venezuelan government stated that it does not hold political prisoners, but rather imprisoned politicians, claiming that those arrested were seeking to destabilize the country. Several NGOs estimate that around 900 people still remain detained, including those arrested before the election. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Australia grants duty-free access to all Indian exports under Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. Australia batters Usman Khawaja has announced his retirement from international cricket. And swimmers across Europe ring in 2026 with New Year's Day tips.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Australia has provided duty-free access to all Indian exports starting today under the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement between the two countries. DD India's Adamya Mishra brings us more on this.
Australia has provided duty-free access to all Indian exports starting 1st January under the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement between the two countries. Commenting on the third anniversary of the deal, which came into effect on December 29, 2022, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that 100% Australian tariff lines will be zero duty for Indian exports from 1st of January 2026. In a social media post, the minister highlighted that the agreement is benefiting Indian exporters, MSMEs, farmers, and workers. He also said that India's exports to Australia increased 8% in 2024 to 2025. Over the past 3 years, India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, or the ECTA, has delivered sustained export growth, deeper market access, and stronger supply chain resilience. Under the agreement, trade balance will improve and stronger gains are expected across manufacturing, chemicals, textiles, pharma, petroleum, and gems and jewelry. In April to November 2025, agri exports surged, led by fruits and vegetables, marine products, spices, and coffee, while gems and jewelry exports jumped 16%. India-Australia ECTA continues to anchor India's economic engagement in the Indo-Pacific, aligned with Make in India and the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
And the Reserve Bank of India has released its Financial Stability Report for December 2025, flagging confidence in the strength and resilience of India's financial system despite global uncertainties. Now, the report comes as the government continues to push wide-ranging reforms to sustain economic momentum. More in this report.
The Indian economy continues to grow at a strong pace, supported by robust domestic demand, moderate inflation, and prudent macroeconomic policies despite global headwinds. These are major highlights of Reserve Bank of India's latest financial stability report. The report says, despite an uncertain and challenging global economic backdrop, the Indian economy continues to grow strongly, underpinned by robust domestic demand, benign inflation, and prudent macroeconomic policies. The domestic financial system remains robust and resilient, bolstered by strong balance sheets, easy financial conditions, and low financial market volatility. The health of the scheduled commercial banks remains sound with strong capital and liquidity buffers, improved asset quality, and robust profitability. The insurance sector continues to display balance sheet resilience, and the consolidated solvency ratio remained above the minimum threshold limit. The RBI report follows PM Modi's social media post highlighting landmark reforms driving India's growth journey. Prime Minister underscored the transformative reforms undertaken in 2025 that have set India firmly on the path of accelerated growth and development. PM said that a series of path-breaking reforms across multiple sectors have added momentum to India's growth story and strengthened efforts to build a developed nation. PM underscored the reforms spanning labor laws, trade agreements, logistics, energy and markets, noting that India's growth is anchored in credibility, stability, and long-term confidence. During the 50th meeting of Pragati, Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave the mantra, reform to simplify, perform to deliver, transform to impact. PM said that Pragati is essential to sustain reform momentum and ensure delivery. With a stable financial system and sustained reform momentum, India appears well positioned to navigate global challenges and maintain its growth trajectory. As reforms continue and financial stability remains intact, India's growth story is gaining renewed confidence on both policy and performance fronts. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Indian Railways is all set to introduce the Vande Bharat sleeper train for long journeys. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to flag it off later this month. Also, Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw announced that the first ever Vande Bharat sleeper train will operate between Guwahati in Assam and Howrah in West Bengal. He stated that the complete trial testing and certification of the Vande Bharat sleeper train have been successfully completed.
तो वंदे भारत एक्सप्रेस जो चेयर कार बनी उसने देश में एक नया कॉन्फिडेंस जागृत किया एंड पीपल स्टार्टेड लाइकिंग इट अ लॉट। देश भर से आज रिक्वेस्ट आता है कि वंदे भारत ट्रेन चलाइए, करीब करीब हर एमपी चाहते हैं। वैसा ही कंफर्ट अब ओवरनाइट जर्नी के लिए, वैसा ही कंफर्ट, वैसी ही सेफ्टी, वैसा ही स्टैंडर्ड एक नया ओवरनाइट जर्नी के लिए वो वंदे भारत स्लीपर से स्टार्ट होगा।
Well, addressing the conference, Ashwini Vaishnaw said the Vande Bharat sleeper train is built on a completely new platform and technology.
हमने जिस तरह से वंदे भारत चेयर कार में लगातार इम्प्रूवमेंट्स किए, हर वर्जन में नए इम्प्रूवमेंट्स किए, अब उन इम्प्रूवमेंट्स के बाद में ये तय किया कि टोटली नया प्लेटफॉर्म एक बने, टोटली नया टेक्नोलॉजिकल बेस एक बने, टोटली एक नए तरीके से सोचें। तो अंदाज़ा था कि करीब 2026 के मिडल तक कंप्लीट हो जाएगा काम, लेकिन लकीली जितनी मेहनत की टीम ने 2026 की आरंभ में ही ये काम कंप्लीट हुआ है।
Well, a new experiment in India's taxi services sector began on Thursday with the launch of Bharat Taxi, a government-backed cooperative-based pilot project. The service has currently been rolled out in major metropolitan cities and will be expanded nationwide based on its performance. Bharat Taxi aims to offer more than just convenience, positioning itself as a platform built on trust, transparency and national interest. Currently running as a pilot, the project's nationwide rollout will depend on its initial results. And dense fog conditions are set to affect large parts of northern and eastern India, prompting weather alerts across key regions. The Indian Meteorological Department has placed much of the North Belt under an orange alert for very dense fog, including parts of the National Capital Region and the Western Plains, where visibility is expected to drop sharply during early morning hours. A yellow alert has been issued across the Himalayan region, northeastern parts of the country and southern India, including Tamil Nadu. Now, the weather agency says foggy conditions are likely to persist, potentially affecting transport and daily movement, especially during the morning hours. And on to some sports news now. Australia's long-time opening batter Usman Khawaja on Friday called a time on his international career by announcing his retirement. Usman Khawaja said he's still battling racial stereotypes. The left-handed batter confirmed that the upcoming fifth and final Ashes test against England would be his final game in international cricket. The 39-year-old made his test debut at the same ground in the final match of the 2010 to 2011 Ashes series and has since scored 6,206 runs at an average of 43.39 in 87 matches, including 16 centuries. The batter's future in Test cricket has been one of the hottest topics of this summer's Ashes series as he turned 39 last month. With Australia 3-1 up in the series headed into the final test, Khawaja confirmed he would be calling time after the final SG test. Well, Australia also announced a 15-member squad for the fifth and final Ashes test against England, starting on January 4th in Sydney. In the absence of regular captain Pat Cummins, veteran batter Steve Smith will continue to lead the Australian side. Pat Cummins missed the first two Ashes tests against England after failing to recover on time due to a lower back injury. Meanwhile, amid test retirement speculations, Usman Khawaja has retained his place in the squad for the fifth Ashes test. Australia will be looking to end the series on a high after suffering a rare home defeat to England for the first time in almost 15 years. They lead the five-match series 3-1 and have already retained the Ashes. And despite temperatures dropping for a chilly New Year's Day, people across Europe participated in New Year's Day dips to welcome 2026. The event, held on Thursday, marked the start of the new year with a plunge into ice-cold water despite spine-chilling cold. Right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from Al Fasair in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.